At Calgary Wild FC, we honor and acknowledge that this land belongs to the Treaty 7 territory. Some journeys aren't linear, but when you trust the process, beautiful things unfold. Join Christie, Jenaya, Georgia, and I as we share how hard work always pays off. Welcome to The Wild Journey, the official podcast of Calgary Wild FC. I'm your host, Farkhunda Muhtaj, midfielder and proud community ambassador for the Wild. This podcast is all about building a deeper connection between our club and you, giving our incredible fans a front row seat, uncovering stories of passion and purpose beyond the pitch. On today's show, I'm joined by two incredible teammates from our neighboring province of British Columbia. First up is Jenaya Robertson, a standout midfielder and proud Trinity Western graduate with a Bachelor of Business Administration specializing in marketing. After an impressive youth sports career, Jenaya took her talents overseas, playing professionally in Europe, most recently in Ireland. Now she's bringing her skill and leadership to the pitch with Calgary Wild FC. Joining her is Christie Gray, a speedy winger for the Wild who also played alongside Jenaya in Ireland for Shelburne FC, a decorated alumna of Queen's University with a Bachelor of Commerce and a Certificate of Social Impact. Christie made her mark as a varsity student athlete and continues to shine on the field. Both of these athletes had stellar university careers and share a strong commitment to advancing equity in sport. Thanks for joining me today, Jen and Christie.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Let's kick things off with you, Jen. I want to know what your upbringing was like, what that journey was like to get to where you are today. How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I think growing up as a kid, I was pretty privileged to grow up in the neighborhood that I did. We had a lot of young kids, similar age to my brother and I. So we were always out in the backyard playing sports. And luckily, I always had my brother to look up to and to drive my competitiveness because I always wanted to be better than him at anything he did. But yeah, I didn't join soccer till I was about 8. Before that, I was just playing sports in the backyard, and people told my parents, you got to put her in something. So they ended up putting me in soccer and softball. Two sports that I loved growing up, and eventually when I was, I think, 13 or 14, I had to decide between the two, and it wasn't even a question for me because I loved soccer, obviously. So yeah, from then on, was part of a few different teams and some really great team cultures along the way, and yeah, I had a lot of amazing coaches who pushed me along the way, and yeah, super blessed to have their impact in my life. And from my youth career, yeah, I was really evaluating what I wanted my future soccer career to look like. And obviously the States was an option, but as I got older, I really wanted to stay home, and I'm a homebody and my grandparents live right across the street. But I didn't actually realize that we do have a really good league in Canada. And I realized that Trinity Western University, who was a championship winning program at the time, they still are, was pretty much in my backyard. So I thought, why do I need to move away from home when I have this team? And I went for a visit and fell in love with the program right away. I think the thing that really attracted me the most was the program is about building you as a person and an athlete. And that's a common theme. Throughout the university, there's such a community atmosphere, and that's something I really wanted to be a part of and have that experience. And even the possibility to travel overseas with the team, that was really attractive. So yeah, I committed to go to Trinity, had an amazing 5 years there. And then I knew I always wanted to play professionally ever since I was 8 years old, but probably more so since I was 14. I really had that dream ignited. At BC Place when they hosted the CONCACAF qualifying tournament for the Olympics. I saw the players compete in that tournament, and that was the first time I'd ever actually seen Christine Sinclair play, and I was like, wow, she's amazing, and all these players are amazing, and I want to do that someday. So from then on, that spark was ignited, and I knew I wanted to play pro. And obviously, my journey has been a bit bumpy, but I'm here today playing for the Wild, and it's been an incredible roller coaster, and I'm just so grateful to be here.
Yeah, trust the process, right? That's a quote that you love, and I'll get back to that as well in a moment. But Trinity Western is a fantastic school. I didn't know much about it. only because that one season that you didn't make it to nationals, I was there.
Rub it in. It's still a sore spot.
And so we didn't meet at all on the pitch until the Wild, but you did mention quite a bit about the values that they uphold at the school. And I remember mentioning to you, sounds like a fantastic spot for my future kids to have some good values instilled in them. But Christie, you and I met at the Wild, but even before we met, I was at the Sport for Life Summit earlier this year in January before preseason, and I heard a lot of positive things about you, a lot of comments and compliments that I can confirm are true and credible.
That's very nice.
I'd like to hear more about your roots and what it was like growing up in BC, but also you stayed and decided to stay home and compete in youth sports, but still chose to play outside of your province. What was that thought process like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So similar to Jen, grew up in Vancouver, BC, so beautiful British Columbia. And I grew up in like the UBC Kitsilano area and kind of played a bunch of different sports growing up, honestly. I started playing soccer in, I think, grade 1 and played all throughout elementary school. I went to Lord Kitchen Elementary School and played on the gravel field at recess with the boys and girls. And I also played hardball, baseball, Little League baseball, Dunbar Little League. That was really fun. And field hockey. And I kind of got into like wakeboarding in the summers and snowboarding because my cousin, he currently competes for Canada at the senior level. So he's trying to make it to Italy, to the Olympics. So go Canada, go. And I always wanted to be like him. So in the summers, I would spend it, if I was lucky, out east because I have family, like mentioned, out in Ontario, which kind of opened my eyes to going to school there, which I'll get into later. But would spend some summers out there in Muskoka on the lake, and he'd always be jumping wake to wake, and I'd want to copy him and nearly kill myself trying to do the same thing. And in the winters as well, I loved snowboarding and skiing. My dad was a ski instructor, and my mom and him met actually on a chairlift at Whistler. So skiing was a pretty big part of our family growing up, and they forced me to learn how to ski before I was allowed to snowboard. So I was bombing down the hill by like age 7 or 8, and then I was finally allowed to get a snowboard. But as we all know, like as you get kind of older, you have to focus in on something. And so ultimately I ended up focusing on soccer and field hockey. And similar to Jen, I looked at the States, but more so actually for field hockey than soccer. I had a pretty bad concussion and I couldn't play soccer for like a year in high school. So I kind of reevaluated at that point. I was like, maybe I'll just fully go into the direction of field hockey. I really enjoyed it. I was introduced to the sport through my high school and the girls were great. My coaches were amazing. But ultimately I ended up switching and staying back to soccer because that's where my passions really lied. And I played for Fusion my entire youth career. And some of my best friends to date are still from my club team. And a lot of them went on to say like U Sports. Actually, a bunch of them came with me to Queens. So that was pretty fun. Oh, and yeah, and a couple of them are coming to visit in a few weeks' time. So made some really important friends for life through sport, which I'm really grateful for. And I think to your point about choosing to, pretty much go across the whole country to go to school when there's some pretty amazing schools in their backyard, like UBC, and great programs, great players and people there too. And Trinity, like there's a bunch of great programs on the West Coast, but I was pretty determined. I was like, I feel like I know my way around this side of the country. I want to explore what's next. So off I went. I knew I wanted to study business school. So I applied to 2 schools, Queens and Western, which are pretty much rivals. My mom went to Queens, same with my uncle, grandpa, and a lot of people in my family have been there, cousins, you name it, but my dad went to Western. And I went and toured both campuses, and right away I kind of fell in love with Queens. And Dave has led like a pretty phenomenal program for, I want to say close to 30 years. He's been there, and the girls just made me feel right at home. I thought it was a really good balance between life, valuing the importance of school, and our team was also pretty heavily involved in the community, which I can get into later. But I really enjoyed my time there, and a bunch of my best friends, like to this day, are from Queens. And a big part of the business program at Queens that I loved was the chance to do an international exchange. So I got to actually study and play in France, which kind of ignited my like desire to continue after. So I'm really grateful for that program. And that's sort of my career in a nutshell, and I can get into, I guess, university and pro maybe a bit later.
It's funny because all three of us were U Sports athletes at the same time-ish, but we never, well, I don't know if you both faced each other, but I definitely never didn't meet you both on the pitch.
No.
Or else we know who would have won.
All right.
University. No, I'm kidding. Queens and Trinity Western are very strong schools as well. But Jen, I know one of your favorite quotes are trust the process. And I wholeheartedly believe in that as well. Whether it's the good moments, the tough moments, you learn something from each of those. Now, for you, you'll forever go down in history as the player that scored the first ever goal at McMahon Stadium. How does that feel, and how has that quote helped you throughout those bumpy moments, like you mentioned, in your career to get to where you are today and score a historic goal that will forever go down in history?
I mean, it's pretty incredible to make history for the club and to do it in front of our home crowd. There's so much that went on behind the scenes to get to that point, and to even have my parents in the crowd when I scored that goal was so special. I mean, not a lot of people know this. That was my official first pro goal.
Amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. It was a long time coming. I mean, I've played overseas now for over 4 years. And there was a lot of hurdles that I faced along the way, a lot of struggle. And there were so many points where I didn't know if I was going to continue on in this sport, but something always told me, no, keep pushing and trust the process, like you say. And I think that even goes back to when I tore my ACL. I mean, I originally tore it when I was 14, didn't know that was a story in itself, and played on it for 4 years, and then buckled it really bad in my second year of university, got surgery. And that was felt like a dark time because I had never faced such a big injury like that. But I feel like I gained a whole new perspective on life and the game itself. Looking back at my career and everything that I went through, and then being able to score that goal for us was just so special.
Yeah, what an amazing goal. What a great game to do it in. And we got the win as well. Unfortunately, I missed it. So I happened to go inside the tunnel to quickly get dressed because I had to do sprints after the match. And all I hear is a huge rumble. And I'm like, oh, God, please tell me we scored and not the other team. And I come out of the change room and the security guard was like, congrats, you got your first ever goal at McMahon. And I'm like, shucks, what a time to be in the tunnel. But fantastic goal. I watched it right away. What a beauty, and what a deserving moment. Like you mentioned, trust the process. Things will happen in its due time, and there's no need to stress over things that you can't control, which are now in the past, and now moving forward, giving it all. And you scored another beautiful goal right after the following game. So off to a great start, Jen.
Oh, thank you.
I want to backtrack with you a little, Christie, because you mentioned the impact Queen's University had on you, and both on and off the pitch, which is quite impressive. And you also mentioned that at some point you had an exchange program where you went out to France as well, and that kind of reignited or really fueled this desire for you to play professionally. Can you speak to that? And then also, what was that transition to go from youth sports to professional football?
Yeah, great question. So I was fortunate to, study business at Queen's, which is a 4-year program usually. And typically on the 3rd year of your exchange, second semester, first or second, you go abroad. So I remember there was a massive fair, and I was walking around with some of my other friends who were on the soccer team also in our program. We were like, where should we go? This is crazy. I'd never been to Europe before. I hadn't really explored a lot of the world, quite frankly. So it was a really exciting opportunity, and ended up applying, I guess, to a bunch of different places. And through this matrix and application process, I ended up getting selected to go to Bordeaux, France. So studied 6 courses over there, everything from luxury design to wine marketing, different types of really interesting courses in a small setting that I'm really grateful for. And while I had the chance to study, I also had the chance to train over there with a team. So I'm going to butcher this because my French is not great, but Gironde de Bordeaux was the team there at the time. Yeah. So women's team competing in the top division. So had the opportunity to train with the under 20s and then also the first team without sort of the stress of competing in the matches on the weekend. But that was the first time I was exposed to women's professional football because obviously, or soccer, obviously we didn't have the NSL in Canada at the time. So I was in, the third year of my school and I was like, shoot, I only have one more year. And it was starting to really freak me out about, oh my goodness, like a sport we've been playing our entire life is just going to come to a halt because there's no other way. And this was sort of like opening my eyes to, no, there is a way. You just have to go a little bit further. Well, right now, anyway, at the time,
right.
And which was in 2020. So I was super lucky. Pedro Lopez let me train with their team. He had previously been with the Arsenal women's team and has like a pretty extensive background in women's football. So it was an honor to get to work with him. And Vanessa, actually, who plays for Team Canada, was there at the time and was so kind to me and took me under her wing. And she has a pretty phenomenal story herself from competitive tennis and starting to play soccer pretty late in her career. And now playing for one of the best teams in the world, just signed in Germany, but has had a pretty extensive career. And like you, scored a historic goal in LA for Angel City when they started in the NWSL. So anyways, I've really looked up to her as a mentor, and she sort of took me under her wing the time that I was there. And wow, my mind was blown. I was definitely out of my element, but it was the first time in a while that I felt I was challenged. And I was like, I missed this challenge and I'm determined to keep going and open up a door somehow to make this happen. And no one at the time at Queen's had gone to play on after school, not because they weren't good enough. It was simply because there was no pathway, and people would try various routes if you were lucky or had a European connection. I don't have an EU passport. A lot of people don't. So I was like, shoot, I'm going to have to build this bridge or break down this wall myself and get on a plane and go somewhere. I'm not sure how, but I'm going to figure it out. So I went back, finished off my senior year. It was canceled because of COVID. So I decided to take an extra semester, worked full time to save up because obviously in the world of women's football, money hasn't also been the most prominent feature of the career until now. Saved up, worked full time, and ended up working with an agent. A friend of the girls who I was training with in France was super kind, introduced me to her agent, who essentially helped open a door in Spain, but then ended up signing a full-on contract in Sweden. So I spent my first year over there in the second division. And to your point about transition, the immediate transition from college to there, I think everyone sort of has this vision, oh, once I'm done college, boom, you're going to snap your fingers and something's going to work. And then the months go by and you're like, what's going on here? Like, things sometimes don't line up or take longer than you expect. But to Jen's point, like, you really have to trust the process and trust yourself. And it's not always easy or pretty. Like, I feel like people have a delusional idea of what professional soccer is, and no, I'm just gonna go on and play. No, like, especially when there's not the NSL or clear paths in process, like, you have to create your own way and just be committed to the process of doing it. So it can be lonely at times when you're training alone and going to the field once, twice a day. But it makes it all worth it once you get that contract and you get abroad. And again, it's not easy, but I think I was so committed to make whatever opportunity that came into my hands worth it. And I think when you go overseas, like, some of the common barriers that people probably don't talk about a lot is like language barrier, cultural barriers. Mm-hmm. I was 9 hours ahead of my family at home, so I'd have like a small window each day where I could talk to them. And so things when you're, again, younger, like, you don't necessarily, and someone who I hadn't traveled really the world a ton before my exchange, that was my first eyes into Europe. It takes a while. Certain things take longer to adjust to than others, but in Scandinavia, it was pretty nice because a lot of the girls speak English and everyone was super welcoming. So spent a year there, which I'm really grateful for. And then I ended up going to Dublin, which is, we can get into it, but that's where I actually met Jenaya. And we both played over there. I played at Shelburne for 2 seasons. And then here I am now with the Wild. So that's kind of a long-winded version of like my transition from university to pro.
Right.
Yeah.
And that transition as well, I think a lot of people, like you mentioned, have this delusional idea of what going from a varsity student athlete to a pro athlete immediately looks like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of patience that goes into it. There's a lot of uncertainty as well. And you just need to work through that and be hopeful that everything will work out at the end. You both met at Shelburne in Ireland. What was it like to have a Canadian teammate? And did you both know or map out that you would come to the Wild together? Or did it happen as a pure coincidence?
No,
not at all.
I would say you could say the word coincidence.
Yeah.
Was it meant to be?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's crazy because we didn't even know each other at all before we went to Ireland, and I think I arrived like 2 weeks before you did at Shells, and they're like, "Oh, there's this girl coming," and we showed to them, Queens. Her name sounds familiar. Then you show up a little. I was like, I feel like I recognize this girl, but how do I not know her? Like, we grew up in Vancouver. I mean, she is a couple years younger than me. But no, it was so comforting having a fellow Canadian on the team. We had 3 other Americans at the time. So there was 5 of us who came in brand new. I think what's really unique about the Irish League is they don't have a limit, or currently don't have a limit. Maybe they've changed that this year.
They have,
on international players. So
That's amazing.
I mean, there's so many of us from North America who are looking for pro contracts, and we all know it's few and far between in the top leagues because you can only have 3 international players per team. So yeah, Ireland seemed like the best fit at the time, especially where I was at in my career. But yeah, no, it was pretty cool meeting Christie there, and now we're here, which is crazy. Yeah. Thinking back, because this is actually funny. Do you remember the apartment that I lived in that you moved into later?
Yeah.
We were sitting in the gym and we heard about the announcement of the Northern Super League. And we're like, wow, is this really going to happen? What? Obviously dreaming that it would.
Yeah. This is 2 years before.
This is 2 years before. And no, we're just like dreaming about the possibilities, sitting.
I remember
in a gym in Ireland,
stretching in the gym in
something. Yeah. And no, just to think back to that conversation, like now we're sitting here is just really cool.
Yeah. Very full circle moment.
Yeah. Immediately when you heard the news of the Northern Super League, was your first thought, how can I play in this league from the inaugural season? Or was it, let me stay in Europe, work towards whatever you had hoped and anticipated your European experience would look like, and then return home?
It's a good question. And I feel like we've probably talked to a lot of our friends who are both like overseas and maybe played in college with. I think personally, I was so shocked that finally there was a league being announced. Because, growing up, you hear, oh, we're going to get a league. Oh, we are. That's fun. You hear these things getting tossed around. But I feel like it's hard to believe until you see, branding start to come out, a plan, a league, teams, which obviously there is so much behind creating, which is why like Diana and everyone involved deserves such a massive pat on the back, because it's truly insane what they've done in such a short period of time. So I think it was probably hard to believe. Like I remember us talking in the gym being like, how on earth is this going to happen? Like there's not exactly a map that they can easily follow. It's never been done before, even though at the time we were in 2023. And it's kind of insane to think there was no professional women's sports in Canada. So I think we're like, it's about time, but like, I will believe it when we start to see it. And then slowly more things started to come out as we were overseas. And we're like, this seems really cool. But there was so much, I don't know, ambiguity around the whole league. And they're like, who are they going to recruit? Like, how do we get involved? And then I think once it started to become more realistic and there was a set league date, like I remember them announcing the start of the season would be April of 2025, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is really happening. And I don't know, at least for me, I was like pretty keen to be a part of it, after being abroad for 3 years, which offers its own unique experiences of like language and culture, and we both like benefited from some pretty special cultures and people that we met over there. I was ready to like come home and see what it was all about. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, no, definitely me too. I'd been in Germany and Spain the prior 2 years, and then obviously we were in Ireland, and yeah, I struggled a lot in those experiences. Obviously super grateful for them, but I was itching to be able to come home and play in front of my family and friends and home crowd. I feel like it was like everything we had dreamed of growing up, and to have it finally happening, I was all over it and just hoped and prayed for an opportunity to open up.
What's been the most rewarding part of this opportunity so far for you?
Ooh. I would say just even like looking back, I keep going back to that like CONCACAF game at BC Place. It was almost a full circle moment in a sense, obviously not playing for Team Canada right now, but looking at that game that happened, the inaugural game in Vancouver, and just knowing that I was that little girl in the stands all those years ago, and now being able to actually play on that pitch in front of a whole new generation of young girls, and to be able to do that every weekend, whether that's in Vancouver, obviously now here in Calgary, which is super special to play in front of our home fans. I think just like seeing the next generation have so many new possibilities ahead of them and that they can actually dream big and see it, I think for me is just so inspiring, and continues to push me to keep going.
Yeah, it's impressive to be able to inspire the next generation when you yourself have been inspired by those athletes that are now retired, many of them, but have had a lasting impact. And similar to you, Christie, full circle moment, I know you had the opportunity to meet Christine Sinclair on that pitch. Is that correct?
A bit of a full circle moment because, like I mentioned, I had the opportunity to be a flag girl at the 2015 Women's World Cup, which was at BC Place, packed with fans. And I think after experiencing that as a fan, and maybe the women at the time not necessarily knowing the impact you have, but remembering, like, I remember the outfit I wore. I remember what I did that day. I remember shaking hands with Karina LeBlanc, Christine Sinclair, and to now finally be reverse. I remember doing the press conference with Lydia for the BC Place game, home opener, and seeing Christine Sinclair in the press conference. And I was like, you're the reason why I wear number 12. And I can't even believe I'm sitting here right now because this is the best thing that could have ever happened in my entire life. And I think we are so lucky that we have the chance to play in front of our friends and family. Like, there are legends like Christine and her whole generation of players who frankly didn't have an opportunity to do that. So I think just not taking a day for granted. Like Jen said, every weekend you look at the girls in the stands, and that's the most rewarding part of this for me, is just knowing the impact that we're going to have, or that we get to have on this next generation, and not taking that lightly. Like, a responsibility comes with that too.
100%.
But we're so lucky to have the chance to do it.
Exactly. And I think the Canadian women's national team has always done a phenomenal job at opening pathways for other young Canadians. And despite not having a domestic league, at the international stage, they were doing so well. And for them, the most important thing was always, how can we leave the sport in a better place? And they clearly have, which is quite impressive. But now, like you mentioned, it's our responsibility to continue that and to open it pathways even further, and hopefully get more young girls wanting to play this, and they now see this as a tangible career path. I want to go into some of the social work that you're doing, Jenaya, because I know you're a phenomenal humanitarian off the pitch as well, and very compassionate, and use football as a means to give back to communities globally. Can you share more about your work with Team Up, how you got involved, and what are some of the goals that you have for this organization, and what do you hope to achieve with them through the game?
Yeah, great question. So I got involved with Team Up way back probably in my second year. So my coach from Trinity actually started the organization years before under a different name. And then I think we went on at least 2, maybe 3 team trips during my time affiliated with Team Up. So I kind of got a taste of what those experiences were. We call them impact trips. But as I was graduating, I got to do a couple class projects on Team Up. So I got to learn a little bit more of the organization, some of the more behind the scenes stuff that, like, we put a lot of work into things. And I think Team Up is just an incredible organization. We talk a lot about fostering life-changing opportunities through sport. And so basically, what we do is partner with underserved communities, both locally in Canada and quite a few countries around the world. But we really believe that sport is that one thing that unites people and that common language. And our partners, our local humanitarian organizations in other countries, they also really believe that sport is that way, that one way, or that common language to impact the local youth and the community. And I've been privileged to have been on quite a few trips. So I've been to Peru and Paraguay multiple times, Malawi, a few different countries in Africa. And just to see the way that sport unites communities is so powerful. And to be able to be a part of that is just so fulfilling. But yeah, there's still so much work to be done. But I'm really grateful to be a part of the organization. And our dream is to impact 50,000 kids by 2026. We call that our big, hairy, audacious goal. It's probably pretty unrealistic that we'll hit that number right now, but
We
can do it. But no, it's just a constant reminder for us that there's obviously so many kids around the world that are craving an opportunity to either obviously break that poverty cycle in their lives, but they're just wanting that sense of hope. And we find that if we can build fields of belonging in these communities, not only do the kids have a chance to be impacted, but the parents as well, and different people within the community, and everyone comes, you could say the field is a symbol almost, but is able to come together and uplift each other. And even us bringing the sport component, we talk about impacting communities or partnering with these organizations in 3 ways: through sports programs, leadership training, and then community development projects. And we also do impact trips, which I'm giving you a lot of team up jargon right now. But we have the double assist model, for example, where we believe athletes like all of us can go overseas and obviously experience a trip. And sometimes we think, oh, we're going to help these people. But what we don't realize is we're actually being so much more impacted ourselves. And we can
100%.
take that home to our own communities and continue to build into them as well, because that's obviously most important to impact where you currently are. But yeah, we have so many hopes and dreams to continue impacting so many lives. And super grateful to be a part of it. And it's been kind of a passion project for me in a sense, being able to do this as I've been playing overseas the last 4 years and now continuing to do it while I'm back home. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and I think you summed it out quite well where you mentioned that people don't understand the influence that they have on you. I think a lot of times we look at ourselves as North Americans as these superior individuals going out to an underserved community, thinking that we are the savior of that community. And that's just not the case. The brilliance that those communities have and the impact that they have on us and how they transform our lives to feel a sense of gratitude, but also understand our privilege. I don't think a lot of people understand how privileged North Americans are until they travel the world. And that's why I always recommend travel as much as you can, expose yourself to new opportunities, because you don't know what others are going through at all. And so thank you for the amazing work that you're doing, Jenaya. Christie, I know you're very, very involved as well when it comes to gender equity in sport. You're a huge advocate for it. And throughout your career, you've worked with or supported organizations that stand firmly with the growth of women's sport. Can you walk me through what that was like, and where does the passion to grow the game come from? I know it's quite obvious you're a female footballer and that must be the case, but was there a specific moment that made you feel like this is something that you need to stay consistent with and continue to grow, because you're still doing it to this day and continue to amplify?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it probably goes back to when I played baseball with boys. I was the only girl on my team for years. And as I started to get older and the boys started to get taller, each year became more difficult. And most of them were fantastic and really supportive and inclusive, but you'd get the occasional comments, and I mean, I was young at the time, but not oblivious to these comments, and they would light a fire under me in ways that made me so determined. I remember at the time I was playing Whitecaps when I was 10 for the academy, and I remember walking into my dad and saying, I'm quitting because I want to play baseball. And it was my final season with the boys. And he was like, are we sure we know are you sure you want to do this? And I said, yes, I am 100% positive. I have a season that I have to attend and finish. I'm not missing this. And so I think if I look to one moment, I think it was probably in those days. There was a few comments that still stick with me. And I was just determined to prove to people that girls were just as capable to play. And in certain sports, it was more accepted. Like soccer, for example, I feel like for years has been probably pretty accepting. Still in women's, I know there's softball, but for women to be in hard pitch. And I know Christine Sinclair actually, I think, played when she was younger. Maybe it's a BC thing, girls playing softball and baseball. Anyway, so that's probably where it initially started, like being involved. I also played ice hockey with boys too. So I think being involved in more like male dominated sports growing up, and, you know, you hear the comments, you're not oblivious. People might think you're young, but certain things stick with you. And that sort of carried into university. And I think what really set me over the edge, and some of my teammates might laugh at this, initially when we were playing in the OUA, like we didn't have OUA TV. None of our games were streamed. We played at the same stadium as like the football team, and every single one of their games was streamed. So this particularly made me determined to get our games covered, because obviously to go on to play at the next level, you need to have some sort of footage to say, hey, look, I can kick a ball. But we didn't have that at the time. So my teammates and I kind of rallied together to get to make sure that our games would be televised for at least the senior parts of like my career. But you would be shocked at how difficult like some of these processes are to fight. And I would be looking at myself in the mirror being, we're like in 2021 or whatever it is at the time, and still pushing for what you would think would be simple, basic things. So fast forward, I guess, to playing overseas. My first year in Sweden, I actually did my knee, so hurt my PCL and MCL. And at the time, I was only playing football. And I think this was a really important point for many reasons, but I realized I have to be doing something else as well as playing. Like our whole life, we have been studying and playing. And now I just had the chance for the first time in my life to play, which was amazing, but also a devil and a curse, because if something isn't going well on the field, for example, a debilitating injury, which I feel like we're all familiar with in a different way, you have no choice. You cannot play. So it's really important to find other ways to positively channel your energy. So I applied to work for The Gist and got an internship there. So The Gist is a they are a sports media organization working to level the playing field. So essentially provide 50-50% coverage of both male and female sports. So it felt super aligned with who I am and what I'm interested in. And I really was fond of the work I did there, mainly in partnership. So got to kind of learn all about the industry, both male sports and female sports. And from the content angle, partnerships angle, strategy, it was sort of my first exposure to that whole world, and kind of fell in love with it. So, basically, the entire time while I was abroad, I worked for both them as well as a few other sports media organizations, and specifying like women's soccer, like the Equalizer, as well as the next women's basketball. So kind of was fortunate to have opportunities to work in this space. And I feel like wherever I go, I'm kind of determined to still push on forward. You cannot be complacent. Complacency is your worst enemy. Someone said that once, and it's kind of true, because we can't be comfortable, even with the standards we have in this league. Like we have to continue to push for more, because closed mouths don't get fed far. You have to keep going.
I know. And you and I chatted through this quite a bit throughout the season. And I love how ambitious you are. You're never going to settle for good. You want it to be better and continue to grow from there. And that goes back to your famous quote, be the change you wish to see in the world that you love, rather from Gandhi. And you're living by that every single day, which is quite impressive. I want to wrap up with a rapid fire and then ask a burning question at the end. So I'll go with Christie first, and then back and forth. Answer with what comes to mind as fast as you can.
Okay, hit me.
All right. Alrighty, morning training or afternoon?
Afternoon.
Not even a question.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Jen, your most memorable goal or assist?
I would have to say the goal that I just scored at our home opener. I mean, that was
pretty special.
Very, very special. Long time coming. And yeah, just to have my parents there was just amazing.
The first best goal out there.
Yeah.
Favorite footballer growing up, Christie?
Let's see. I always loved watching Sam Kerr play because she could do a backflip, and I thought that was the world's coolest thing. She's also fantastic.
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
And yeah, it kind of helped me fall in love with football even more and follow along Chelsea and start watching more of the women's Premier League over there. So I'd have to say Sam.
Yeah. Okay. Good choice. I think Collie would like that.
Yeah.
Your post-game guilty pleasure snack?
Ooh. Probably like a DQ Blizzard.
Okay. Get a sugar rush right after the game?
Yeah.
Well, what kind? There's a lot.
It'll have to be either like the strawberry cheesecake one or chocolate extreme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good call.
You're trying not to sleep after a game, eh?
You ask guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
One superstition you believe in.
Oh, I don't have a lot far. I feel like it's important to be adaptable. Superstition.
Or
I feel
game related routine.
Okay, I would say listening to music is kind of a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
It just helps me relax and get focused.
For the game?
Yeah.
Or just in
or
general,
in life,
like
both.
all the time.
All
You need to focus
settings.
with music.
Yeah.
Were you one of those that studied with music on?
Yeah, sometimes, but then I'd find myself singing, so then I would have to cut myself off
Yeah.
or listen to classical music, so
Right.
at least there was no lyrics.
Calming.
Yeah, something to block out the noise. Yeah.
And one word to describe yourself off the pitch.
Ooh. This is supposed to be rapid fire. Caring.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I don't know. It's true. You
I
are.
mean, with the work that you're doing and the way you treat the teammates is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, it's been an amazing conversation. I enjoyed every bit of it. I hope you did as well. I want to ask one burning question before we leave is what piece of advice would you leave young girls that are watching you today? I'll start with you, Jen.
I would say just to dream big and believe that you can do it. Like if you have the passion and the drive and can push through adversity in your career, because it's not going to be easy, you are going to face hurdles. And I mean, that's what makes you the player you are at the end of the day. But just to, dream big and believe in yourself.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I would say similarly, work hard and lift up people around you because you're not really going to achieve anything alone in your life. You're going to face adversities and hurdles along the way. And you're going to, at different times, need to pick up teammates around you and hope that they'll do the same. So work hard, lift up the people around you. And I think do your best to smile and be positive and just bring energy and just enjoy the process.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. I had a wonderful time, and I appreciate the advice you shared with our following.
Thanks for having
us. Far.
Hey, Wild fans, enjoying the episode? Well, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow for similar content. Let's get back into the episode. Welcome back to the Wild Journey. Today's guest brings a truly unique Olympic perspective. I'm thrilled to be joined by Georgia Simmerling, Director of Partnerships here at Calgary Wild FC. Georgia made history as the first Canadian to compete in 3 different sports across 3 Olympic Games, and she brought home a bronze medal at the 2016 Summer Olympics. It's an absolute honor to have you here on the podcast today. Thank you, Georgia, for joining me.
Thanks, Far. I have to actually interject there. I competed in 4 Olympic Games, actually.
Did you actually? Oh my God, I need to go back and do
No,
this.
no, this is funny. No
Wow.
redo intro. It happens all the time. I competed in 3 sports
Yeah,
in 4 Olympic Games.
that's impressive. Well, the crazy thing is that a lot of people are, there's very few people that can say that they were an Olympian. And then
Facts.
even
Yes.
fewer that can say that they've competed in multiple sports.
Mm-hmm.
How were you able to achieve all this?
So yeah, how long do we have? Honestly, I'm extremely driven. I come from a family of 4. I have 3 older brothers. I was, beat up and chased, they're very nice and kind older brothers, but I grew up in a very, sports centric, competitive, healthily competitive, very outdoorsy family. And I played a lot of sports also when I was young. So I played many sports, when I was a little whippersnapper. Like field hockey, basketball, volleyball, fastball, baseball, women's baseball, and soccer as well. And I think, one could probably diagnose a little ADHD in there too. And I think I channeled that, into sports. I absolutely love sports. What's interesting is there's a lot of, in my work now, there's a lot of talk of why young girls are dropping out of sports at a young age. And I am very proud to say when I speak to potential partners about this, in terms of ways that they can get involved and kind of assist us targeting that, is I was an anomaly. I never never like sports was my entire life all the time. And I loved it. Yeah, I think a very supportive household.
Yeah.
My parents were super supportive. Would like stop their workday midday on Saturday to pick me up from one sporting event to the next. And yeah, I think they gave me opportunity. And I saw myself in sports. The teamwork, the camaraderie, friends. And I was very driven. Like I am still a very driven individual, but I was very, very driven, and I loved to compete. And I loved being active. Yeah.
No, that's impressive. But also just like the talent that goes into each of those sports, but also as coaches that are working with you, like what is that conversation like when you just jump from one sport to another or advocate for yourself to go on to a qualifiers to prove yourself?
Yeah, I think you have to be, so not many athletes at, mid-20s decide and achieve in switching sport at an elite level. And I think you really need a sense of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. You need a sense of openness, acceptance as well, because facts are you're not going to be very good at that new sport right off the get-go. Yes, my learning curve was very quickly. Take track cycling, for example. That would have been my second sport, switching my first winter to summer. So I just quick Coles notes. I grew up alpine skiing. I competed in 2010 in Vancouver in alpine skiing. 2014, I competed in ski cross, so a very different ski racing sport, but still on skis, competing against each other, going down big jumps and around gates. It's kind of wild. Google it if you haven't heard of it. And then indoor track cycling on a velodrome was my third sport. I also tell people I have really strong legs. I like spandex and I love adrenaline. Those are like the three common denominators in all those. Yeah, in all those three sports. But the big switch was actually switching from winter to summer and hopping on a track bike for the first time. Where I was joining a team. So I was an individual athlete for my first two sports, but then I was joining a team, and that team actually was very good at the time. Their world ranking was phenomenal. I think it was second in the world actually when I tried to knock on that door. The coach, I had a phone call with the coach about a year and a half before what would have been the 2016 games in Rio. And he said, I've heard of your story. It's not happening. Absolutely not happening. And I just remember driving to the track in Burnaby, Vancouver, and tears just started flowing down my face. And a little voice in my head just said, keep this guy talking. So we started kind of talking and just, talking about whatever. And he's like, you know what? I like your attitude. And he told me to ride an individual pursuit in 3 minutes and 44 seconds. At the time, worldly, that was pretty fast, but for a newbie. And I said, sure, no problem. And I think the other key to trying something new, because this is very relevant to anything that you, I think, try in life, is ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. Like, I didn't know what that time meant to me. Yeah. And I just said, yes, I have a goal. This guy's given me a smidgen of an opportunity. I am going to do everything I possibly can to make that happen. And so I did. I packed my bags. I moved to LA. I'm totally cutting to the, all the details here. And in 6 weeks' time, I got the time. I moved to a track where I could possibly get that time. Mm-hmm. Semantics, but some tracks are shaped differently, and the difference in length. And so I moved to LA, and 6 weeks later, I called him back up and I got the time. And then over the next probably 6 or so months, I developed to transitioning, trying different, getting my feet wet in the new sport, getting comfortable on a bike. Those bikes have no brakes and there's no coasting on them. So yikes. It's like an original, like, New York bike messenger bike. It's wild. Yeah. And when you're in a pack, like, it's carnage. It can be. Yeah. And I worked my way up to the national team, actually. And then, he said, okay, you're on the team, but there's by no way are you going to be I'm not guaranteeing you a selection for the next World Cup, and then for the next World Championships, and then this is all in a matter of months, and then the Olympic Games were literally like months away, and I was selected, and I was selected, I think, because my teammates saw that I was able to contribute. I was a bit of a loose cannon, if you will, but I was fast.
Yeah.
And they quickly saw that. They're like, okay, if we can teach this girl how to ride her bike, she's going to make us faster.
Yeah.
And I, at the same time, was, I think, receptive of feedback and a lot of criticism. And I, having been at elite sport for many years previous, I was able to filter, process, and put into action. You know, I wasn't perfect, but I was able to make pretty large gains day after day after day. And I think I was able to, you know, I'm a talkative person, as you can tell. But I was able to kind of like fill, like be a sponge actually, and not talk that much during training anyway. And kind of take in from these women that were very talented, and they were teaching me. So it was a very like unique position in my life, to be honest, a unique time. And I think I've learned so much of that time period. And I've taken that into the next chapter of my life, big time.
Yeah, and you were clearly able to adapt, and you mentioned very quick at learning new skills and trades and absorbing everything around you. What tips would you give for other individuals that almost feel like they can't learn a new skill because they're too old or it's daunting?
It's absolute crap. You totally can. You are your biggest obstacle. Like, our minds are capable of so much more than we think they are. And, you know, whether you're 50 or 90 or 20 wanting to learn a new skill, you are more than capable of doing it. Yes, you have to put a lot of time and effort into it. And yes, you have to commit to whatever that new skill may be. And I think, you know, setting yourself up for success is very important. But the positive conversations that we tell ourselves on a daily basis are very important. I think, you know, to wake up and, you know, just, you know, the first thing you see in a mirror is, you know, are you going to give yourself positive messages or negative messages? Are you going to, you know, go to work and interact with colleagues, you know, some maybe that you don't get along with, you know, very similar to a team. You're not going to get along with everyone, whether it's coaches or teammates. Are you able to kind of like compartmentalize that and work on that relationship maybe, or just kind of see it for face value and for what it is, and, you know, not take things personally? I think that's like a big thing in life. Like, and I've seen as I've transitioned to the work life is it's hard to not take things personally. I think people, it's like one of our kind of biggest weaknesses, like kind of overall. I'm definitely, you know, stereotyping or just like generalizing, but I think it's hard to not take things personally, like to really have a mantra of like, that person's just having a bad day, or they actually have very low confidence and they're just projecting it on me, or whatever it is. Like to really like not take things personally is, it's very freeing. I will say.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And mindset matters all the time. And the perspective that you have is definitely going to dictate whether you can or cannot achieve something.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to just your mental toughness, what was that transition between going from being an Olympic athlete to transitioning out and retiring from pro sport?
I again, I don't want to like, you know, I'm like dusting the dirt off my shoulder in quotations. I don't want to do that, but I will say, so most high performing and elite athletes really struggle. Like that, there's a generalization, but it's very true. Mm-hmm. They struggle with what their next step, their next move. Their identity is lost. Their motivation is lost. Their goal setting, they have nothing to look forward to. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not, I don't want to, I can't swear on today, but they're not like the cool factor anymore. You know, the world isn't looking at them on TV. They're not on top of podiums. And being an athlete is fun and it's hard work, but like, that's a fun job. Mm-hmm. And honestly, so many athletes take it for granted. Like when I was an athlete, the last couple of years, I had an athlete who's a couple years older than me, you know, mentor now. She said, don't take it for granted. Like, don't complain about the bed sheets. Don't complain about the bad travel day. Look where you are. I'm on a glacier in Switzerland. This is my job.
Yeah.
So I think like understanding that as a veteran athlete, and then understanding like I did the work. I actually had the mental capacity to focus on a couple things during the last year or so of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought me to a place of fulfillment very quickly after retirement. So I knew I wanted to stay in the world of sport, but I didn't want to be a coach, and I didn't want to I wanted to be on the other side of the lens, on the business side. And I think the last 6 months of my career, I interviewed many individuals that I had access to, because as athletes, we meet many successful individuals, whether that's a CEO of a business or of a business that's investing in sport or sponsoring you as an athlete, or sponsoring your team, or whatever it may be, or the individuals that you meet at an event as an athlete. Like go through your Rolodex. You know a lot of very successful people. Actually, you just don't think you do, but you do. But that, then it comes to connecting with them and meeting them at the event and taking their number down. And that goes with that. But so you have to do that work. So I connected, and I personally reached out to, the CEO of the Canadian Olympic Committee, it was like the CEO or he was a Canadian actually leading, and he still is there leading the charge of the LA 28 Olympic Committee. I connected with folks at Red Bull. I connected with folks at Oakley. I connected with agencies. I connected with agents. I knew I wanted to stay in the world, but I didn't know what capacity. So I did my research, and other sports teams. I connected with directors in different departments, and I started to filter out what I didn't want to do. So I knew maybe I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I started to filter out. Okay, I don't want to do that, but that's interesting. I don't want to do that, and it led me to having so much fulfillment in the next chapter of my life, which started very quickly after retirement. And that was starting my own sports agency. I focused on Canadian female Olympic athletes and assisting them in their marketing deals and partnerships across Canada. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I spent a lot of time building a business plan. I had some mentors that guided me through that whole thing, which I knew nothing about, getting my business license, like the whole thing. Like it was a massive learning curve, and I was goal driven, and I loved it.
So your experience as a professional athlete obviously supported you post career, and then allowed you to transition into being the director of partnerships at the Wild. Now, being a part of a startup is not easy, of course, and it challenges you in many different ways, but you almost have the experience of being in the unknown. How has that supported you in your current role with the Wild?
Yeah, I think it honestly comes back to those points that I mentioned earlier of like, being humble, understanding, that we're actually all new at this. Like the folks at the Wild, like, yes, we are very successful, or, the people that built the club, let's be clear, are all very successful individuals, but they don't come from a sporting club background. And I think for myself, I was actually very good at representing myself as an athlete. Mm-hmm. I then thought I could do that for others. So, and that came with a lot of challenges as well. So, it's easier to tell my story. It's a lot harder to tell someone else's story, actually, I found. And then, so I was essentially selling myself, and then I was selling other Canadian female Olympic athletes. And then that transitioned to actually working for the Northern Super League. Mm-hmm. So then I was selling a league, which funny enough didn't exist for 2.5 years, of course. So that was, selling a dream, but a dream that I was very, very passionate about for obvious reasons. And then I transitioned to the working for the club. And I will tell you, it's like I didn't know what I didn't know. I'm so actually proud, yes, so proud to work for this club, but happy that I'm working for a club because I'm so competitive. Like I loved working for the league, and like I thought I really liked my job, and I did big time. But I love getting behind the athletes. Like I like getting behind you guys, and there's like ethos and energy when it comes to working with a club versus being at the league. Like you got to be neutral, and like that sounds boring. That's not me. That's not me at all.
Well, you are quite competitive with Steph. You and the Vancouver rivalry, hey?
Yeah, we are in a very like loving, hilarious way. You know, my partner Steph, she's the sporting director of the Vancouver Rise, but she's on the soccer ops side, of course, and I'm on the business side. So we really support each other in that way. Like I think truly, if I was I don't think I could be. Well, I couldn't obviously, but if I was the sporting director, I think we'd have some issues then. One of us would have to change jobs. But I think because we're on different sides of the business, one sporting and football side, and one on the business side, we talk women's soccer all day, every day, and we totally love it. We honestly do. I think though, like, yeah, this is a startup, you know, we're all learning. And I think, the league is learning as well. I think globally though, what, the viewer sees is a really good darn product. If I can say so myself. And behind the scenes, we're learning every day, and we're nimble, and we're trying to, you know, fix and learn from our mistakes. And I think I truly hope that's what like the outsider sees is a really good product on the field that's only getting better on the field and off the field.
Exactly. And you're learning quite a bit in different spaces, both the team, the league level, and also you've worked with individual athletes. If there is a message or pieces of advice that you would share for athletes in the NSL to do a better job pitching themselves, what would that be? I
would start by creating a pitch deck. So create a like 2 to 3 page max pitch deck. Put in a ton of photos, because no one likes to read, and our attention span is like 2.2 seconds or whatever it is. Yeah. So I would put in some bullet points of yourself, what you've accomplished. Brands we're living in this digital age where brands really only actually they care a lot about your social media. So I would, you know, back up. I'd work on that. I say unfortunately because I wish that really wasn't the way, but it is. Those are facts. You know, this is such a digital world that brands are very they're very focused on athletes' social media and their reach and their presence and et cetera, et cetera. So build a pitch deck, get some bullet points in there. Don't put in like a novel, you know, history of your accolades when you were 19 or, you know, whatever, when you were 16. Brands don't care about that. They care about what you're doing now and your social media. Put in some really cool photos and captivate them early in this pitch deck. Again, max 3 pages, and then get out there. Like start contacting brands that you are passionate about and you see yourself connecting, not brands that you think you're going to get money from just because you will quickly realize that you're then representing the wrong brand. So I would understand who you're passionate or who you have a connection with, reach out to them and if you say how, we'll figure it out. Like there's contact pages, there's figure out who the partnerships lead is, who the marketing lead is, who the sponsorship lead is. Figure out that person, try to get their email somehow and ask people and connect with them and follow up. It's all about the follow up. You're probably not going to get an answer right away and your email probably will just go to their junk mail. Yeah. But persevere, because if you're going to reach out to 25 brands, you probably get maybe 5 or 3 to respond, and maybe one of them will partner with you. So it's a bit of a dogfight. Like I get rejected every single day in my work. But you know, when I get that email that a partner's interested, then I get excited. And then to be honest, like that's where I get my adrenaline from anyway, like, or now is, like, that's where I, kind of like emulate being in a start gate, if you will, or competing in a match or whatever it may be. So, because a lot of people ask me that, like, where do you channel your energy? So my work is very or it can be exciting in that regard. Yeah, I think that's like probably a good kind of snippet of advice for athletes in the NSL. Connect with Canadian brands, like connect with brands that are in Canada, passionate about what you're doing.
Right. It's so important to leverage your social media
Big time.
presence in this time and age, whether you're an individual or a team, because I always say this, when people want to search you up or understand who you are, the first thing they're going to check is your social media presence. And that pretty much sums up who you are as an individual, or how you want yourself reflected to the world, right? So you have to be very conscious and careful of what you put out there.
Totally.
Because the internet is written in ink, as we all know. What is your fondest memory with the Wild so far?
Ooh. Crazy. That's a good, I think the home opener.
Yeah.
I think it was overwhelming for me because it was a Sunday, I think, and I was back to work Monday. So I was still actually on parental leave. Steph and I can't end a podcast without saying that we have two little, they're 10 days shy of 3 months old. We found that out today. Two little girls, Alice and Maddie. And so I was on a month parental leave, like actually very like I got the job with the Wild a couple weeks before babies were born. I said, you guys know what you're signing yourself up for, right? I need to take a break and be with these girls. And they said yes, of course. And they were super supportive. Yeah, I think the home opener, I drove up. I wasn't a part of really like the build up of the day because I was on parental leave. But I drove up and I'll never forget like driving into McMahon and seeing so many people tailgate and get excited. And this was like an hour before the match. And I was just like, what the actual, like, it was just, I was so like, I get goosebumps thinking about that. And then of course the match itself was just incredible, like seeing the fans. And yeah, I just love match day. Honestly, it's like my favorite day.
And it was Mother's Day as well.
Oh my
Mother's
gosh.
Day, you and Steph.
Yeah. And that's a blur. Gosh, I did the walkout with the little baby girls. They asked Steph to do it, the walkout, but she's like, gee, come on. I can't do the walkout with the Wild. That's just sacrilege. I'm like, you're right. You can't. But yeah, I think just the match, the walkout was amazing, but I think just the match in total and seeing like so many energetic fans. I think that's what's so amazing and what I speak about this club. We are connecting with so many people in the city in a whole new way.
Exactly. And just to piggyback from that match and the Mother's Day event, your personal life is just as busy as your professional life. Being a new mom, of course, to two cute twins that are just so adorable. I have to say, I'm expecting them to be all-star athletes. Like you and Steph, Olympians, phenomenal footballer, phenomenal multi-sport athlete. Are you going to, I guess, influence them to choose a sport or?
Steph has always said it's pretty adorable. Actually, she hopes that one of them or both of them pick an activity or sport that we know nothing about. Okay. So she can just be like, good job, honey. And they'll be like, Mom, I didn't do very well. And she'll be like, but good job. You did so well. Yeah. Like, I just think that I totally agree. It'd be adorable. At the same time, Steph comes from like a hockey family and I come from a ski racing family, and those two sports don't really like, they do not complement each other. It's definitely one or the other. So if I have my way, our girls will definitely be on skis at a very young age, and I really hope they like it. I'm going to like make it as fun as they possibly can. But we just have to expose our daughters to I think a variety of activities and sports and music and what have you. And I think they're going to tell us what they want to do. And my mom keeps joking. They're going to hate sports. Like not hate.
Imagine.
But I know. It happens, of course, but yeah. Who knows? We're there to support and take them on the ride.
Exactly. And they're having a phenomenal ride, it seems. Just wrapping up, I want to know what is something that you're most proud of achieving throughout your personal and professional career?
I think like personal, like, but it kind of goes with professional. Honestly, is I think being like very true to myself as an athlete. I think I am proud of my career and being authentic. I know that sounds a bit like, hokey pokey, but I was really true to myself throughout my entire career, and I very much have taken that into the next chapter of my life. I am very, very comfortable. I'm comfortable in my own skin. That took some time. I'm comfortable in my own body. That took some time as well. And yeah, I'm like, I love life. I'm like a big glass half full kind of gal. And I love my family. I'm so proud of the girls that we're raising. They're just like the cutest little things ever. I can't wait to go home to them. And professionally, crossing the finish line in Rio and winning a bronze medal, because like you win in that sport, and in certain sports, like you win bronze, you don't like you lose silver, right? Because it's head-to-head competition. So you either win gold or, soccer, right?
Yeah.
Gold medal final or like the bronze. So we won bronze, and I'm literally getting goosebumps now. Crossing the finish line, winning bronze was a very, very just such a cool feeling. Like it was just, and doing it with teammates, like it was just, there's something about winning as a team that is just different than and they're just very different than individual sports. So yeah, I think those two kind of like general events in my life.
Yeah. I mean, congrats on all of your success. Thanks for being authentically you and for bringing so much energy to the Wild. We all love you, and thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely. Go Wild.
Hey, it's Farah here. Be sure to select the next episode and enjoy some more Wild content. See you soon.